Hi, welcome. My name is Dr. Alfred Tam, and this is my podcast. My whole goal for creating this goes in stride with pretty much what I have been interested in doing since vet school. I made a club, a blog, a YouTube channel, all that so I can provide a place for veterinarians to show who they are. So, what's going to be on this podcast? So many things. Really, just anything. I have a profound interest in people, all people, and being veterinarians does not exclude us as a population from any description or quality of what a person is. We are emotional, funny, stupid, crazy, and despite being a prestigious profession, we are not always 100% professional. We cry, we dance, we love, and most importantly, we fail. Now, I do not believe that people should define themselves by one or two characteristics. Models should not be known for just their looks, chefs not just for the food that they cook, and presidents and leaders not just for their policies. Side note, I will not be talking about political sides and preferences. But finally, veterinarians should not be known for just their medicine and their white coat. I have had the incredible privilege of meeting vets around the world who are so fantastic and so beautiful outside of the veterinary interests, along with inside. And I want to share that with the world. So I will be connecting with these wonderful people and talk with them on this podcast so everyone else can see how fantastic and how beautiful we all are. Like today's episode, I'll be still talking about veterinary-related topics, often controversial ones, not so much to share my bias, but in attempts to shed light on all parties and bring further discussion and thought. For my non-veterinary listeners, I apologize ahead of time. I will not be giving out veterinary medical advice. Now, it's not because I don't want to and I don't care. Trust me. My boss has had migraines on how much free advice or free services I could not help but hand out to clients. This podcast is not for medical advice for the sole purpose that I have not seen or touched your animal, and it would be an absolute disservice on your fur baby to give you help without doing so. That being said, if you are listening to a veterinary podcast in hopes of acquiring medical help, it means you probably are concerned enough about something that you should probably see a veterinarian. Okay, let's get started with episode 1. As you can depict from the title, there is a war going on between old school vets and new school vets. What does that mean? Well, veterinary medicine has picked up quite a bit in the last 1 to 2 decades. We have had a monstrous shift in not only demographic numbers, but our ability to share knowledge, mostly thanks to the internet, has allowed for significant changes to how we practice medicine. Also, with increase in pet ownership, we now have larger sample sizes to study diseases, and specialty interest has never been greater, allowing for more focused research and specific categories. So in other words, we vets are killing it, figuratively, but well, also literally sometimes, unfortunately. So before this new trend of modernized veterinary medicine, there were still licensed doctors who practiced medicine and treated patients. And we still have these doctors practicing today. Thousands of them, actually. As you can gather from subtle hints, you can tell that I am younger. Therefore, I am also more of a newer generation or a new school vet. And because I said there is a war going on, it means that there is some kind of opposition to how we practice medicine and how older vets are depicted by newer vets, how they're seen by them. But as I said earlier, my goal is not to discuss my bias and bring forth a larger army against older vets. I want to talk about the pros and cons of both sides. Another quick discretion, this discussion is based on generalizations. Not all old school veterinarians are stuck in their old school methods, and not all new veterinarians practice modern medicine. And I'll talk about why these methods still exist today. So, what is the stereotype? Well, that is that old school vets do not practice quality medicine. Steroids and antibiotics. Done. Discharge. Collect payment. Specialists and emergency vets are typically the ones who cringe at this the most, mostly because they're the ones who pick up the pieces when it doesn't work. But what are steroids? I'll kind of give you the spiel that I give to owners. Steroids are fantastic medications, one of the best. They've been around and used by doctors for years, and there's a reason that they're still around and still commonly used today. Steroids, unfortunately, are a double-edged sword, and they can have some serious side effects, short and long term. So there's a balance we need to play with to get the desired effect, but also the minimized side effects. Sorry, I have to. Okay. Nowadays, with an understanding of these side effects and learning that there have been pharmacological advances to drugs, modern medicine tries to avoid this as a first-line therapy, unless, of course, we're dealing with something like cancer or Addison's or something. Steroids, they break down your body, your skin, your hair, your organs, your immune system. They can temporarily make you feel better, though, because they decrease inflammation. So that's part of the issue with giving out steroids willy-nilly. You're potentially masking the symptoms and the disease. This is the problem with older generation medicine. Throw the sick patient some steroids. Here's another kick. Sick patients are usually older. Older patients, more often than younger patients, have comorbidities or underlying diseases such as kidney disease, liver disease. And giving them steroids without first checking their internal function can be really serious. As I said earlier, steroids also inhibit your immune system, which is great when you have a primary disease where your immune system is trying to kill you. But what if it's an infection that's causing it? Note, if you've made it this far, please comment on the Instagram and post 5 diseases where steroids are indicated. I've already given you 2 and hinted at the third one. Okay, so this is where antibiotics come into play. The old school method throws in antibiotics with the steroids in case there is an infection. Bam, double whammy. The pet feels better and you've covered your ground. The vet now looks like a hero. But as described before, this can be dangerous and is practiced more often than it really should be. So why does it still exist? What's the benefit of all this? Well, let's go back to the definition of medicine. I hate doing this, but Webster's definition of medicine is the science or practice of the diagnosis, treatment, and prevention of disease. So by definition, grabbing these 2 medications fulfills half of the treatment part of this description. No diagnoses, and really not much of a preventative measure. This, unfortunately, sorry, there's a dog barking back here. This, unfortunately, is considered bad medicine. But let's now talk about what's good about it. For my extremist listeners who have a fiery passion against old school methods and had a visceral response to even mentioning a possibility of a positive spin on this, I know I'm not going to convince you of anything good. And you are absolutely entitled to your opinion because it ultimately is bad medicine. But what I noticed that old school vets do better than new school vets, again, as a whole, is that they communicate and form a bond with the owners. I'm not saying we do this poorly, okay? Hear me out. As we transcend our medicine further, we also take steps away from the elementary understanding of medicine. In other words, medicine gets more complex, and it's harder to connect with the owners on what exactly is going on. So how many vets nowadays have an owner who, whether or not they are compliant, understand your treatment plan, and they know exactly what the disease is going on and what was happening? You could have spent a whole hour in the room talking about it and drawn diagrams, but it still didn't hold in. I don't think it's because the owner is stupid. It's just because medicine's really hard. Now, put yourself in the simplicity of describing steroids and antibiotics. Antibiotics fight off an infection. Steroids help them feel better. Oh, okay. And it costs $6. Well, doctor, you not only explained this so well to me, but you fixed my pet for under the cost of a Happy Meal in 2020. Again, bad medicine. Bad medicine. But this goes into the next point, and unfortunately the number 1 or number 2 reoccurring topic of medicine or life: cost. Money talks. And this therapy also works at times. So vets now developed a relationship and trust with the owner, and there's a chance the medication actually worked. Oh yeah, they're coming back, and they're going to tell their friends. Business increases, positive reinforcement, and the cycle continues. So what can we, the new generation vets, take from this? Okay, should we fall into the dark side and stock our cabinets with only Temeril P and Clavamox? Don't charge for our services and compete by working harder for less? No, I don't think that's the right method of action at all. The thing is, as medicine advances and stays, we get better at explaining and understanding the diseases, and we have more practice on communicating this with the owner. Overall, the elementary standards will continue to improve, and I think there will be a better understanding. I feel like there already is. Also, old is old and will eventually die. This old school practice is actually starting to fade. It's just not really fully gone just yet. I think what I notice with newer vets is that they don't think about the owners and their financial or their emotional ties with finances as much as they should. We tend to tunnel vision into wanting to save and do the medically right thing, which is medically right, obviously, but we don't consider the owner's thoughts as much as the older school vets do. And this gives us the image of a cold, money-grabbing demon, which I think many of us absolutely are not. It's all a matter of communication and perception. That road rage idiot on the highway, speeding and weaving through all the cars and lanes, or that owner who refused to repair that tooth root abscess, well, the person on the road could be going into labor, and that owner might have just spent their last paycheck toward feeding their 3 kids. Either reason is not enough moral compass to drive like a jerk or neglect your dog, but we are all people, and we're all complicated, and we like to make things complicated. It's unfair to judge people by their actions that you disagree with. Note within obvious universal moral standards. And I think that our older vets do a better job of it. Well, the poor medicine makes it a lot easier, but I hope you see my point on this. There are things to take from this, and we will get better. Okay, this is it for my last episode. I'd like to thank my sponsor, Hydro Flask, for selling me their water bottle on Black Friday at a discounted price. Please go to hydroflask.com to pay full retail price on their items. You may be able to access a sales tab for lower costs. No promo code necessary. Thanks so much for listening. I'll catch you guys later.